it's interesting because, like Kleber just said, we kind of experienced that feeling again in Brazil, like when Bolsonaro was the president, which is when first thing that they do is to attack universities, academics, scholars, journalists, and artists. And we both, as very vocal artists against that particular government, suffered lots of consequences of what we were saying, and especially what we were doing with with the things that we do, like with the films that we produce. I myself had produced and directed a film in Brazil that also took place during the dictatorship, and this film was censored. And that I'm talking about Brazil in the 21st century, Brazil from 2018 to 2022, the biggest democracy in South America. So I think that these kind of things always make me think of like how we cannot take democracy for granted.
And I'd just like to point something out. I think that once the democratic system breaks down, any normal, honest citizen in a society may begin to feel like a secret agent. Just because the things you stand for and the things you think and say, and you could be an academic or a journalist or an artist, that will immediately put you in the position of being under persecution. So I think a lot of the idea for the secret agent and the title The Secret Agent came from the notion of society breaking down and you having to deal with a situation where the values are upside down.
Yeah, the majority of the victims of dictatorships are not freedom fighters, are not people that are trying to overthrow a government, or like regular people, like that are persecuted just because they are who they are, not just because of their skin color, or because it depends on their religion or their political beliefs.
You mentioned that it was going back to the conversation about Bolsonaro, and I don't want to spend too much time talking about politics, but you have said before that you think it was the amnesty law that actually brought Bolsonaro to office. Explain the dichotomy there, because unlike a military dictatorship, and as you even acknowledged, he was democratically elected.
Yeah, but it's a matter of memory, I think. Like if we don't have our history told correctly, or if we have things like the amnesty law. The amnesty law was a law that we have in '79 in Brazil that basically forgave all the torturers and killers and people that did very despicable things to civilians in Brazil. If we have things like that, if we make people believe that attempting against democracy or attempting against human rights is something that's okay, then we have a memory problem. And we had that in Brazil for decades, for centuries, I would say. Our history is based on many beautiful things, but also it's based on, like, Brazil was the last country in the Western world to abolish slavery. So we live with many contradictions in that country. So I really believe that Bolsonaro wouldn't have been elected if it wasn't because of the amnesty law. As right now, we are finally getting even with our memory when we sent Bolsonaro to jail and we sent military. For the first time in Brazil, we sent military people that attempted against democracy to jail. So I truly believe that the new generations of Brazilians are going to grow up with a different sense of understanding of our history and of our memory.